changes. Anyway, ganito lang para mas kita natin. Kasi maximum. Alright, so for the chapter 2, same lang din to sa NetAcad, pero may mga binawas ako. And then, ayun, may mga pinalitan lang ako. So, chapter 2 is everything becomes programmable. Okay? So, bago tayo mag-start, I would like you guys to answer this one. This one is just a knowledge check when it comes to the definition of or knowing about flowcharts. Okay, so we have 5 questions and then, pipili lang kayo. Pero of course, na-revise na sa Canvas kasi hindi naman ganito yung way of answering this one in Canvas. So is the sensor checking for an open or a closed store? So may option kayo close or open. Hanggang sa pinakahuli. Okay, so just base your answers in this flowchart. Alright, so moving on, we have here another flowchart wherein, of course, we have here the process. And then as you can see, we have here a diamond. So pag nakita kayo ng diamond, this one is a decision, okay? Or mostly a question. And then kapag may question, of course, there's an output. Merong mostly dalawa or tatlo. Pero mostly dalawa lang naman. So pwedeng yes, pwedeng no. And then each of those path, there is another process or it could be another question, okay? So in here, is there a bulb? So if there is no bulb, then you need to install a new bulb. And kapag meron ka ng bulb, is the bulb burn out? So as you can see, 2 questions in series. And then, so another 2 results, of course, since after a question or after a decision diagram. So meron tayong no and then yes again. So if it's yes, replace the bulb and then another question. And if it's no, no power and then check the breaker. And so on and so forth. Okay. So in here, I would like you guys to recall your knowledge or the things that you know about flowcharts. So hindi ito yung pinaka-official way of doing a flowchart. Meron talaga tayong bilog dito wherein yun, dun ilalagay yung start. And then meron pa tayong, let's say, connecting wires kung sakaling may katuli pa dun sa iba. Okay, mostly kasi kapag flowchart mahaba-haba, lalo na kapag dating sa mga programs. Okay? So, talking about flowcharts, so these are used in many industries, including engineering, physical sciences, and computer programming. Okay, so mostly in computer programming. Kasi dito talaga para malaman natin yung workflow ng program natin. Okay? So, where a complete understanding of processes or workflows is required. So, this one illustrates how a process should work, should not require complex. So, this is very important. Hindi mo kailangan ng complex at saka mga complicated na terminologies or mga technical terminology, okay, or symbols. So a flowchart should be easy to understand without having to be an expertise in that chosen field. So mostly kasi pag may flowchart, binibigay natin to sa mga customers natin or sa mga tao na gusto natin, let's say, ipaliwanag yung program natin kung paano magumagana tong system na to, and so on and so forth. So dapat in layman's term siya, na in a way na maiintindihan nila kaagad, okay, ganito pala. Okay? So yun sa mga pinaka-requirements ng flowcharts. Kapag sobrang complicated ng flowchart, hindi ko na siya babasahin, hindi ko na siya titingnan kasi nga mas naguguluhan pa ako. So babasahin ko na lang kung ano ba talaga tong function nito, ano ba talagang process nito, and so on and so forth. So dapat sobrang dali. Okay? Like pang grade 1 or pang grade 2. Pag tingin ko pa lang in 5 seconds, dapat alam mo na ganun yung flow ng flowchart mo. Okay? So in programming, it is common for programmers to create a first draft of a program in no specific programming language. So these language-independent programs are focused on the logic rather than the syntax, are often called algorithms. So a flowchart is a common way to represent algorithm. Like an example of flowchart is shown in the figure on this slide 3, this one. Okay? So ito actually medyo magulo pa siya kasi maybe in a draft piece pa lang siya. Pero if possible, i-finalize natin or i-make it more simpler kung may way pa para mas maging simple ang flowchart natin. Okay? Kung hindi naman kailangan tong process na to, then you can just remove it. Kung hindi naman kailangan tong decision making na to, then you can just remove it. Okay? So next one is system software, application software, and then computer languages. Okay? So there are 2 common types of computer software. That is the system software and then the application software. So application software, very straightforward. Ito yung mga application na ginagamit natin, okay, to our computer. Google Chrome, Packet Tracer, AutoCAD, ano pa ba, or any application that we use. Okay, so that one or that program is created to accomplish a certain task or collection of tasks. Like for example, like I mentioned a while ago, Cisco Packet Tracer, wherein you can simulate a certain program. Okay, and then for the system software, so ito na yung pinaka-key points nyo. Kapag sinabi nating system, more on connected na siya on how our hardware works. So ito na yung nakikipag-communicate doon sa hardware natin. So papahapyawan ko lang kay lahat dito. Hindi ko talaga in detail, okay? Kasi I think alam nyo naman na to. Okay? Just a recall or just a recap for this one. So system software is the one communicating with the hardware. Okay? Or actually communicating with both application and then the hardware. Okay, so it is a system software that controls the computer hardware and allows the application programs to function. So parang ito yung middleman natin. Okay, and then of course, system software and application software are created using a programming language. So yung Windows natin is from Linux based, yung Apple is from yung kung ano man yung code nila doon, yung Mac. Okay, and then etc. etc. Okay, so lahat-lahat ng yan, mga software na yan, came from a programming language. So it is created by a certain language or a certain person who construct with the usage of this language. Okay, so a programming language is a formal language designed to create a certain program. Okay, that communicates instructions to computer hardware and to our application software. So these programs implement algorithms which are self-contained, step-by-step sets of operations to be performed. So some programming language are being compiled. So yun yung mga china-check niya muna from top to bottom. Okay, so ito yung mga mostly matagal mag-run. So pagka-click mo, matagal pa siyang mag-run kasi i-compile mo pa. Meron yung ibang program na kailangan mo pang i-compile separately bago mo ma-run. Oops. Yan, wala. Okay, so may mga ganong program. Like for example, C++. Okay, that is a compiled computer language. So actually, ito yung pinaka-safe or pinaka-the best. Kaso nga lang, mas mabagal yung process. Kasi you have to check or the system itself is checking everything bago niya i-run yung program. Like making sure that nothing is wrong with the program. And then the opposite of this one is the interpret instruction language. So may mga familiar na ba sa inyo when we say instruction or interpret language? So for sure, alam niyo yung compiled kasi for very sure, nagawa niyo na rin yan or nangyari na rin yan sa inyo kapag gumagawa ka ng program, kino-compile niyo muna bago niyo i-run. But how about interpret and instruction language? Any idea?
None, sir.
Alright, so when we say interpreted, so ito yung isa-isa. Okay, when we say interpreted, parang isa-isa or line by line niya ina-execute. So hindi niya na kino-compile, isa-isa niyang chine-check. So kapag walang error, na-execute niya na maigi itong line, then susunod siya sa another line. Okay, kapag walang error, susunod siya ulit sa another line. Kapag nagkaroon na ng error dito, kung ano lang yung na-run niya, hanggang doon lang siya. So hindi niya na may ira-run yung mga susunod pa sa baba. So okay din to, okay, kasi mas mabilis, kaso nga lang hindi siya safer or mas prone siya sa error. Okay, so we call that one interpreted programming language. So one example of that one is a Python. Okay, so as you can see right here, ito hindi na kailangan ng compilation. So this one is being executed line by line. So kung saan man may error dyan, then dun siya magkakaroon or magpa-prompt ng error. So pwedeng tumakbo siya for 5 seconds and then after 5 seconds, magka-crash na siya kasi nga may error na. Okay? So moving on, so programming variables. So alam na niyo na rin to. Lagi naman tayong gumagamit ng variables when it comes to programming. So a variable is where we can store, like imagine this one as a dynamic bucket, okay, where we can store all or it can hold phrases, numbers, or other important information that can be used in coding. So para saan ba tong variables na to? So again, para Hindi na tayo paulit-ulit, okay? Hindi mo na i-declare lahat na, okay, ito yung value na ito yung value, ito yung value, okay? Let's say meron kang 100 na gano'n na same values. So hassle yon. Okay, copy-paste, copy-paste. So you can just use instead a variable. So instead of repeating specific values in numerous places throughout the code, a variable can be used. Okay? So for instance, x plus y is equal to c is an example of a programming expression. So in this expression, x, y, and z are variables which can represent characters or even numbers, okay? Even character strings, numeric values, or even a memory addresses. Okay, so mostly a variable refers to a value, but sometimes it also refers or represent a memory location. So mostly, ito yung gamit natin para sa variable. Laging may value yan, laging may laman. It holds a certain value. Pero in some cases, it can also represent as a memory location. Okay? Wherein in here, a is equal to 10. Ito yung value ng variable a natin. But in here, the location is 10. Okay? Represents a value 10 is stored in some location of the computer memory. Okay? And then, knowing a variable, meron tayong two types or two categories when it comes to variable. We have the local variable and then the global variables. So when say local variables, it is within the scope only or within the function or within the a certain procedure or process. Okay, so limited siya, mas maliit siya ng konti. Unlike global variables can be accessed anywhere or everywhere or throughout the entire program. Okay? So variables allow programmers to quickly create a wide range of simple or complex programs which tell the computer to behave in predefined fashion. Okay? So, not much naman dito. Just, again, an introduction about variables. All right. So let's talk about basic programming structures. So again, I think alam niyo na rin to. Kabisado niyo na to when it comes to structures. So people impart logic to computers through programs. So using specific logic structures, a programmer can prepare a computer to make decisions. The most common logic structures are, so we have three: if, then, for loops, and then while loops. So ito na yung mostly ginagamit when it comes to sensors. So as you can see, we could see that that AI is thinking if that one is programmed appropriately according to that situation or according to that scenario. So alam nyo na to, probably, or most of you already know this one. But we have if then. So this one is basing on the result of an expression. So if the result is like this, then it will do this one. If the result is like this, and then it will do this one. So depende kung ano yung magiging result dun sa initial computation or dun sa initial condition natin. Okay? And then for loops, so mostly ginagawa to, yun nga, for loopings. Okay, let's say you want to execute this program repetitively for, let's say, 100 times, starting from 1 to 100. So you can use for loops. Okay? So we have here, so mamaya na lang. Tapos yung pala muna sa while loop. So while loop is magra-run siya until or hanggat yung condition natin is true. Okay? So we have here a we have here a specific example when it comes to if then, example for loop, and then example for while loop. So this one is created from Python language, and then Python also. Okay? So as you can see, if value is greater than value 2, so nakadepende siya sa result, then print on the screen value 1 is greater than value 2. But if value 2 is greater than value 1, then it will do nothing since wala naman naka-indicate. But in here, since value 1 is value 2, which is true, okay, then it will do this, or it will execute this line or process. And then for the for loops, okay, we have here starting from 0 up to the 100 or less than 100, let's say 99. And then it is incrementing by 1. So of course, print on the screen counter is equal to, and then nag-increment siya by 1. So starting from 1 hanggang sa ma-reach na yung 99. So this will loop 99 times. 99 ba? 1 to 99. Anyway, so 99 or 100 or 98. So nandun lang yan. So, and then lastly is while. So while this statement or condition is true, then it will keep on executing or processing this one. So as you can see right here, I think this will execute 10 times. while value is less than 10. So nag-start tayo sa 1. Okay, so of course this will loop. Okay, medyo similar siya sa looping kasi nag-execute siya for how many times. So while this one is true, then it will keep on looping. Right? So bago tayo mag-proceed sa susunod yung activity, okay, do you guys have a question so far or clarification? Question? Or am I being too fast? Right, so I think in the chat. Answer. Okay, so sabi lang kayo pag masyado ako mabilis. Okay, kasi the reason why kung bakit ko dinadalian is I know that some of us or most of us hindi pa kumakain ng tanghalian. Okay, so I hope matapos natin to at exactly 1 o'clock or 1:30 maximum para naman on time pa rin yung pagkain nyo. Kung sakali naman gutom na kayo, so okay lang naman. Okay, you can eat while listening, so no problem. Alright, so moving on. So here's your first short activity with this chapter. So programming language concepts. So you can just check this one on the canvas. Okay, so nakalagay naman na siya doon. Yun nga lang, hindi pa siya naka-publish. So mamaya ko pa ipapublish after ng discussion natin. So this one, short activity, knowledge check. Oops, ito pala yung una. Pangalawa na pala to, sorry. Pangalawa na tong programming language concept. Ito. Alright, so moving on, we have here your laboratory number 8. Alright, so listen carefully. Ito yung medyo kung lang naman. Kailangan ng critical thinking. Okay, depende sa magiging result sa inyo. So ito yung instruction ng laboratory number 8 nyo. Okay, so pakita ko lang sa canvas natin. Okay, so after nung short activity na after nung short activity na binigay ko kanina, programming language and concepts, you're going to have your laboratory number 8, creating a process flowchart or create a process flowchart. So here's instruction. So the objectives of this one is to recognize symbols used in flowchart and list logical processes, solve a problem. Sobrang importante nito, okay? Recognizing symbols. Okay, so ito yung mga some of the symbols that you can use. Actually, marami pa. Maybe more than 50 of the symbols. Pero ito yung mga mostly na ginagamit. Okay. And then second is draw the flowchart to illustrate the problem solving process. So, iwanan ko na to sa inyo, itong background. Well, anyway, summary lang nito, you can use Microsoft Office products. So, pwede, madali lang naman, marami namang shapes na available sa Microsoft products natin. Pwede ring LibreOffice. So, I think the creator of this one or the founder of this one is a Filipino. So, LibreOffice. And then you can use Google Docs or any other various web application. So, pinaka-recommended ko talaga is ito. Okay? Yung draw.io. Bakit? Kasi parang siya yung pinaka-kompleto. Okay, pakita ko lang. So, basically, mag-i-start kayo dito kung hindi ako nagkakamali. Magka-create kayo ng account. And then, yun. After yung mag-create ng account, mag-login lang kayo and then, ito na yung magpapakita. So, you can create a new program. So, piliin nyo lang flowchart. So, marami pang iba kung let's say, kailangan nyo rin sila. So, we have a sequence diagram, which is, I think, magagamit nyo to soon. O kung nagamit nyo man, so, pwede kayo dito, sequence diagram. And then, kung let's say, from the start talaga, from the scratch, so you can use blank diagram. Okay? And then, so on and so forth. So, napakarami. Or class diagram. Okay? So, meron pang business, pang charts, pang cloud, pang engineering, yan, like mga resistors, capacitors. So, actually, parang ito na yung all-in-one. Kumbaga, mapa-architecture ka man, mapa-engineering ka man, mapa-computer engineering ka man, or mapa-businessman ka man. Okay? Meron pang maps. Okay, napakarami. So, sa basic, ang gagamitin natin is yung flowchart. Okay, so just click that one and then create. Okay, and then meron tayong default na yun, nagawa na. So you can always delete that one. Okay, since mag-create ka as a fresh one. So drag and drop lang naman to, so you can explore this one by yourself. So yung start, tapos yung mga processes, yung mga decisions, and then pwede mo lagyan ng text, of course. Okay, and so on and so forth. And then yung lines na pwede nyong gamitin, okay, like that. And kung let's say vice versa, oops, yan, and then other process, oops. So yeah, so marami kayong pwedeng gawin dito sa draw.io. So hindi ko lang na-try kung pwede nyo i-save yung work nyo dito. Pero kung hindi nyo man pwedeng i-save, you can always use sleeping tool. Okay? Para ito yung screenshot nyo, yan, ganyan na yan, and then yun na ipipaste nyo dun sa work nyo. So simple as it is, ganun lang. Alright. So, depende naman sa inyo as long as yung symbol is parehas. Ito yung importante kasi yung symbol. So, pag ganito, dapat process siya. Pag ganito, dapat data siya. Pag ganito, dapat decision siya. And so on and so forth. Okay? And then one more thing nga pala is, ito, very important to, off-page connector. Kung sakaling hindi siya nagkasya dito, okay, and then nakat na dito sa pangalawa, ito na yung continuation. So, kailangan meron kang off-page connector. Hindi yung itutuloy mo yung line sa baba. So, ito yung dapat yung gamitin, off-page connector. Alright, so start na tayo. Scenario, you are required to develop a systematic process to find a predetermined number. Okay, so the process developed is represented in a flowchart. So using the flowchart, we can check and verify the logical process toward the problem. So, ito yung pinaka-first step na kailangan nyo gawin. Of course, kailangan nyo ng kailangan nyo ng kahit anong application. And then, list the logical steps required to solve a problem. So, meron tayong, ito yung mga parang step-by-step condition kung paano nyo gagawin yung flowchart nyo. Okay, so, iiwanan ko na to sa inyo. Bale, straightforward naman siya, napaka-straightforward. And meron tayong some questions on what are things that will happen. So, can the process catch if the number the player has chosen 0 or 1 to 8? So, take note, this is like a game wherein you're going to determine, okay, the number that is being chosen by the player or the other person. So, why or why not? And then explain. So, if 0 or 1 to 8 cannot be cut, so what should you do to correct it? And then part 2, so draw the flowchart. So use appropriate flowchart symbols for each function. Okay, so actually, itong draw the flowchart, so i-guide naman kayo step by step. So don't worry. Actually, hindi pa kayo mag-iisip gaano. Dito kayo mag-iisip sa result. Dito sa flowchart, parang libre na to, parang bonus nyo na kumbaga. Okay? Yun. Andyan na yung step by step kung paano yung gagawin. Use an oval symbol to start, and then yung question or yung mga dapat or mga instruction na kailangan ilagay. Okay, B, C, D, E. Ito yung pagkuha ng average, and then yung initial value, lowest, and then the highest value is 1 to 8, and then the many times or the seconds that the program or the system guess the number of the player. And then, of course, ito, pinapaliwanag lang sa inyo, this is one is a decision, this is correct. If it's no, what will happen? If it's yes, what will happen? And then, yeah, ibang-iba pa. And then, ito yung pinaka-complete, okay? So, draw the complete flowchart. So, I would like you guys to recreate this one. So, take note, recreate. Okay? Hindi kayo mag-create on your own. So, just recreate this one using, pwedeng ito, draw.io or any other application that you can use. Okay? So, ito yung initial start, and then please think of a number, integer number between 0 and 1 to 8. So, as I said, again, recreate, wala na kayong babaguhin. Kaya nasabi ko, bonus. Okay? So, gayahin nyo lang yan. And then, kung papansin niyo gumamit tayo ng off-page connector kasi nga, hindi na kasya sa baba. So, yung katuloy na ito is, ito na. Okay? Makikita nyo man. And then we have here a connector. Itong bilog na ito is a connector. And then ito na yung pinaka-complete na flowchart. So all you need to do is recreate this one with the use of another application. So ito kasi, hindi ko alam kung anong application ginamit dito. Pero ibang-iba naman yung interface niya dito. So you can use this one. Okay? Take a screenshot or crop this one using snipping tool. And then paste it on the part 2. Okay? So palitan nyo lang to with the use of your own created flowchart. And then, of course, after nun, meron ulit tayong question or follow-up question. So we have here the reflection. What is the significance of testing t is equal to 6? And then where should the test for the numbers 0 and 1 to 8 be placed? So yeah, yan yung mga sasagutan nyo. So we have a total of 4 questions or 4 opinionated questions depending on the result of your system or depende kung ano yung pagkakaintindi nyo. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4 and then recreating this complete flowchart. Alright, so hanggang dun lang muna. Okay, since ang malitirang oras na lang is 1 minute. So we will continue the rest. Okay, ito yung dito sa slides natin sa part 2. Alright, so for now, goodbye muna and then wait 5 to 7 minutes.
Sige, sir.
Alright, bye. Right, so I'll end this now since ko-convert ko pa naman siya.
Yes, sir.
So before we resume our discussion, do you guys have clarification or questions so far?
Ano naman, sir?
Right, so kain lang kayo Lunch time na, so pwede kayong kumain. No problem. Alright, so ito yung laboratory number 8 nyo. Okay, just creating a simple flowchart. Alright, and then after that, you're going to have another short activity regarding with flowchart. Okay, flowchart symbol. So familiarization lang naman about flowchart. So you can finish this one within 5 minutes. Since yung mga symbols naman is nandun na sa PDF dito sa laboratory. Okay, kung wala man doon, okay, so marami namang another sites or website na pwede nyo puntahan para malaman kung ano bang name or function ng symbol na yan. Okay? So moving on, let's talk about Blackly. Okay? So mostly ito na yung ginagamit pang program ng mga sensors or ng mga actually more on parang pang robotics to eh. Okay? So Blackly yung gamit natin. Okay, so Blackly is a visual programming tool created to help beginners. So instead of typing, okay, so drag and drop na lang to. Okay, mas madali to kasi pre-made na yung mga sequence or pre-made na yung mga, yung mga ganyan, yung mga blocks. To understand the concepts of programming, so by using a number of block types, Blackly allows a user to create a program without entering any lines of code. So this is shown in the figure above. Okay, so Blackly implements visual programming by assigning different programming structures to colored blocks. So lahat yan magkakaiba ng color. So it's just a matter of familiarizing the color. So pag ganitong kulay, more on setting the kwan. Pag ganitong kulay, more on printing. Pag ganito, more on logics. Okay, or more on maths or more on lines, etc. etc. So maraming kulay yan na iba't iba. Okay, so the blocks also contain slots and spaces to allow programmers to enter values required by structure. So yung iba dyan, pwedeng blank. Let's say, eto, pwede mong palitan ng greater than, pwede mong palitan to ng, or pwede mong alisin mismo yan, and then palitan mo or interchange mo. Yung iba naman, blanco, para pwede kang, ikaw na mismo yung mag-input ng pangalan or ng value mismo. Okay? So programmers can connect programming structures together by dragging and attaching the appropriate blocks. So take note lang dun sa mga parang notch natin. Okay, so meron tayong notch and then meron din tayong parang katuloy yung isa. Okay? So programming structures such as conditional scripts and variables are all available for use. So actually, kompleto rin to. Okay. Yun nga lang with the use of blocks. So creating a new variable in Blackly is a simple matter of dragging the variable block onto the workspace and filling in the value slot. So it is possible to change the contents of a variable as the program is being executed. So ito, hindi mo na kailangang i-post. Like, post mo muna bago mapalitan. So pwede mo nang palitan right away. Okay, so wala nang stop and run. So pwede mong, kahit nakaraan na yung program, pwede mo palitan yung value. Okay, para makita mo yung difference. Agad-agad. Okay, so here's the continuation. So Blackly also supports functions. So meron din tayo mga functions. So similar to the variables, Blackly has specific blocks to represent functions. Yung mga ganito. And also similar to variables, programmers simply select and drag functions block to the workspace and fill in the required slots. So notice that in figure 1 and 2, so ito yung figure 1, and then this is the figure 2, that the variable block and the print on the screen block have both a bevel tab on the bottom. So ang tawag pala dito is bevel tab, hindi ko lang naalala. Bevel tab and then a slot, okay, or a notch. Slot on this one, on the top. So this means that the two blocks can be snapped together. So pwede mo siyang snap sa gitna, sa baba, sa taas, sorry, kahit saan, kung saan yung required or kung kinakailangan mo talaga para sa program mo. To create a program sequence. Okay? So of course, may sequence in time pina-follow starting from the top to bottom. So ganun yung sequence. So Blockly will execute the block on the top first and then move on the block below it. So other blocks are available such as if, then, while, and then for blocks. So there are also blocks specifically for sensors and actuators. Okay, so meron tayong kung as a given na tong actuator na to or mostly used tong sensor na to or actuator. So mostly na doon yung model. So all you need to do is find that one, drag and then drop. And then it will work as it is. So depende kung ano yung preferred settings mo dyan sa sensor niya or sa actuator. So Blockly can be used to translate block-based code into Python or JavaScript. So this is very useful to beginner programmers. So pwede mo siyang i-translate into Python or JavaScript from blocks. Okay? So meron tayong Blockly games if you're interested in playing about blocks, okay? Combining things like puzzles, maze, burst, etc., etc. So Google provides a series of free and open source educational games that can help you learn programming. Okay? So the series is called Blockly Games. So you can search on the internet Blockly Games and then ganito dapat yung magpapakita ng interface. Or you can right-click this one or you can left-click. So control, hold the control and then left-click this one. So in that way, malilid kayo dito sa website na to. So there are a number of levels to complete to help you get started. So Blockly may look like a toy. Of course, para naman siyang Roblox, para siyang, ano ba, tawag natin doon? Yung parang create ka lang ng mga blocks. Lego, para lang siyang Lego. Okay? But it is a great tool to improve your logical thinking skills. So hindi naman required to, hindi ko na pina-required. So laro lang naman siya. It's up to you if you want to play those games. Okay, so you can go to this website, which is one of the building blocks of computer programming. Pero malaking tulong to, of course, for logical thinking. Ano ba yung tamang sequence? Paano ba yung eto? Saan ba siya dapat? And so on and so forth. Okay. Moving on, we have here your laboratory number 9. Okay. So simple lang naman to. Dalawang components lang. So mabilis lang to. Maybe it will take you less than 30 minutes to finish this one. Pero meron kasi mga question doon. So maybe 30 minutes to 1 hour. So pakita ko lang sa inyo. Alright, so first laboratory nyo when it comes to Blockly is blinking LED. Okay? So, ang goal nyo dito is open a bucket tracer and then examine Blockly programs for LED blinking. And then, next one is control an RGB LED using Blockly. Sorry, hindi pala dalawa. Apat na components. So, isa para dito sa RGB and then another isa para sa RGB din, which is for yung microcontroller niya. Okay, so background, ibanan ko rin sa inyo. Scenario, so using Blockly program to control an IOT object LED. So this labs, this packet tracer is used. So gagamitin nyo pa rin yung packet tracer as it provides Blockly support with IOT objects. So meron naman siya, supported naman siya, so don't worry. So required resources should be 7.11 and above. So dapat ito yung version ng packet tracer nyo. Kung hindi man ito or above, dapat yung i-update. Baka may kulang dun sa blocks na yun or yung Blockly. Okay? So i-launch nyo lang yung packet tracer nyo and then yan. So this, again, yung parang intro. Okay, we have category, subcategory, and then yung mga specific subcategories. And then yung ito rin kukunin nyo. So punta lang kayo sa components and then piliin niyo yung MCU board. So add niyo lang siya dito and then mag-add lang din kayo ng LED. Okay? So punta lang kayo dito sa subcategory LED and then choose this one and then drop it here. And then click connections category. So kunin nyo lang yung IOT connection or IOT custom cable. So ang tawag natin dyan is IOT custom cable. Itong kulay, I don't know if it's green or brown, pero ito. Okay, hanapin nyo lang to. And then their connection is from D1 port to D0 port. Okay, so again, coming from my MCU, microcontroller to LED, dapat yung connection. Alright, so what else? So ang i-configure nyo na dito or yung ipoprogram nyo, yung program, parang ita-drag and drop nyo actually, is yung MCU, yung microcontroller. So punta lang kayo sa configuration, config ba? Program yata. Punta kayo sa programming. And then mag-type lang kayo ng new project and then create lang kayo new project, name it blinking LED. And then after nun, after nyo ma-create yung, di pa muna pala, name yung blinking LED and then palitan nyo to, itong template into blink-visual. So mahalaga to para mapunta kayo dun sa Blackly. Okay, so ito yung mag-lead ng way kung paano nyo siya ipoprogram via Blackly. So dapat blink-visual. Okay, and then click create. So pagka-click nyo ng create, i-double click nyo lang yung main.visual and then magpapakita to, itong pre-made or pre-built Blackly program displays. So nagawa na siya. And then may mga katanungan lang naman tayo. So as it is, i-run nyo siya. And then is the LED blinking? So yes or no. So and then click stop. And then change the value field of the digital right black to 10,023. So from 1, okay, palitan nyo lang to 10,023. Kasi parang I think nasa analog na siya. Hindi ko lang sure. Pero mostly kapag digital kasi is 0 and 1 only. But in here, it changed it to 1023. And then as you can see, click run again. So that's the LED blink. So dito kasi magiging sagot niya na is yes. So parang bonus na to. So dito is no, it is yes. So why was it not blinking when the value was not set to 1023? So very obvious. Bakit daw hindi siya nagbe-blink nung ang value natin is 1? And then bakit nagbe-blink na siya kapag yung value natin is 10,000? 1,023. Okay, so just put here your explanation. And then click the LED, blah, blah, blah. And then it indicates that we can use analog, right? So palitan nyo lang tong digital into analog. And then change the analog right blocks to 1. Okay? And then right-click the small block with the value 0s and click duplicate. So duplicate nyo lang para malagay nyo dito and then delete nyo yung digital right dito. Kasi dalawang digital right to eh. So palitan nyo lang into 2 analogs. Okay? And then after nyo mapalitan yung 2 analogs, lagay nyo lang yung values dito, 0, 0. And then pwede nyo paglaruan actually para malaman nyo kung yung brightness nito is ganito or ganyan. So kapag 10 of course, mas mababa. Pag mas mataas, mas malakas yung ilaw. Okay, so in here, we have here 10 and then 100. And then for the part 2, ito na yung RGB. So yung kanina is blinking LED lang. And then this one is the RGB. So same, gamit kayo ng microcontroller and then RGB LED naman. Okay, hindi lang siya basta LED. So ito, RGB LED din gagamitin nyo. So take note, ito na dapat siya. Hindi na yung LED kanina. So now you have a total of 4 components. And then the same, kukonect nyo lang din sila, of course, coming from microcontroller going to the RGB LED. And then D0 to A0, D1 to A1, D2 to A2. Okay, so follow nyo lang yan. And then same process, palitan nyo lang yung pangalan to blinking RGB LED and then yung template nyo, palitan nyo lang to blink-visual and then click create. And then meron na kayong ulit yung pre-built. Okay. And then expand nyo lang yung pin. Okay. And then pin blocks to set 3 slots as output. Okay. So mag-create lang kayo ng 3 blocks dito, nakagaya na ito. And then from pin access group, select analog right. Okay. Select nyo to and then replace it to digital blocks or digital right blocks. Also add a few print blocks. Okay, so follow nyo lang yan. Medyo haba, pero yan, as it is. And then, the final program is as follows. So meron pang another tweaks. So follow nyo lang ulit yan. And then run the program. So the LED should display red, green, and then blue in sequence. So red, green, blue, red, green, blue, red, green, blue. Dapat ganun yung sequence ng makikita nyo sa packet tracer. So ito, challenge, modify the program to show combined color from all three inputs with different randomly generated values for each lab. Okay? So hindi ko na i-record to, pero kung gusto nyo, okay lang din naman. So kung gusto nyo gumawa ng another program, pero hindi nyo na isasubmit. Okay? Hindi nyo na isasubmit tong part na to. Ang isubmit nyo lang is hanggang sa part na to. Okay? So dapat makita ko ng blinking LED and then makita ko ng RGB na LED. Okay? So, yung dalawang yun lang. And then this one, hindi na required. Pero kung gusto mo namang pag-eksperimentuhan, then you can do so. Okay? So, any questions so far regarding with your laboratory number 9? Medyo mahaba-haba pero dyan naman lahat, step by step. Question guys, for clarification? Bago tayo mag-proceed.
None so far, sir. Seems pretty clear.
Okay, so you can always go back on each step. Kung may meron kayong, let's say, nagkaroon kayo ng error, so pwede nyo i-reread lang ulit. Baka may na-miss lang kayo. Okay, so di bale, sobrang step by step naman yan. Napaka-thorough naman ng explanation when it comes to this one. Alright. So, moving on, after your laboratory number 9, we'll now discuss the Python itself. Okay, so what is Python? So, Python is a language or nowadays, popular language na daw siya. Well, that's true since most of the dev is now shifting to Python. Okay, so it is designed to be easy to read and write. So Python's developer community adds values to the language by creating all types of modules and making them available to other programmers. So the core philosophy of language is summarized by the document here. So pwede nyo naman tignan, i-visit nyo, gaya ng ginawa ko. Okay. So ito yung Zen Python philosophy. Ito yung abstract. So pwede nyo naman basahin. Ito lang yung sum. Okay, kumuha lang ng sum dito. So beautiful is better than ugly. Explicit is better than implicit. Simple is better than complex. Complex is better than complicated. So ang pinaka-point ng Python is kung pwede mo naman pagandahin, then pagandahin mo. Kung pwede mo naman pwedeng gawing mas simple, then mas gawin mo simple. Kung pwede mo mas gawing mas better, okay, then why not, di ba? So continuation, so readability counts, kasama pa rin siya sa philosophy. So despite the fact Python is designed to be easy, okay, sobrang dali daw niya matutunan, sobrang dali ng design, there is still a learning curve to make it easier to learn Python. So a beginner can use Blackly, okay, to enhance his or her Python understanding. So yung iba kasi, ang ginagawa nila is nagba-Blackly muna bago sila mag-Python kasi medyo similar sila. Kasi yung iba, nag-umpisa sa mga sensors, actuators, kagaya ko. Actually, ginamit ko tong Blackly dati para lang sa robotic arm. Yung mga, tawag dito? Servo motors. Okay, paano kontrolin yung servo motor, kung gaano siya kabilis, gaano kabagal, so on and so forth. And then, Python is an interpreted language. So, kagaya ng sabi ko kanina. So, this one is line by line. So, therefore, an interpreter is required to parse and execute Python code. Okay? So, the Python interpreter understands and executes Python code. So, Python code can be created in any text editor and Python interpreters are available for many operating systems. So, lalo na sa Windows. So, ang gamit lang naman natin dyan is CMD. Okay. So, pwede mo na malaman kaagad yung version ng Python mo just by typing here Python. Papakita dito. So, I have a version of 3.8.5. Okay. And then, so on and so forth. So, hindi pa ako masyadong familiar dito, pero I think ito yung parang update nyo noong July 20, 2020. Okay. And then, or kung ayaw mo naman gamitin yung default na gamit natin sa Windows natin or sa operating system natin, so you can always use another third-party like Py2Excel and PyInstaller. Can be used to package the Python source code into an executable file. So eliminating the need for the Python interpreter when running Python code. So kapag Linux user ka naman, so dito siya nakalagay mismo yung Python interpreter mo. So, hindi ako masyadong familiar when it comes to Linux. Pero sabi dito, depending on the available Python versions on the system. So, pwedeng Python 3.5, yung sa akin kasi 3.8. So, kakaiba ng version na supported sa each operating system. So, pwedeng nauuna yung Mac, saka yung Windows, and then nauhuli sa Linux. So, pwedeng nauuna yung Linux, nauhuli yung Windows sa Mac. With the new Windows Python installer, Python is installed by default into the user's home directory. So in older Windows machines, Python is often placed in local DC, and then Python, and then the version. Okay, 3.8 or ano naman yung version na check. So after the Python interpreter has been installed, it operates somewhat like Linux shell. So this means that when called with no arguments, it reads and executes commands interactively. Okay. So when called with a file name argument or with a file as a standard input, it reads and executes a script from that file. Okay. So with that being said, we have here a certain example. Di pa muna pala. So yung ginawa ko lang kanina is yun. Inalam ko lang yung version, which is, ito yung version dati, 3.6.5. Yung sa akin ngayon, oops, dinos ko na pala, is 3.8.5. So start, to start interpreter, simply type Python or Python 3. So any of those two. Okay, gamit yung CMD natin. So some legacy systems are still running on an older version of Python 2. So, but many new systems are moving to use the new Python version 3. So, ito na yung latest. Kung ako sa inyo, kung old yung gamit nyo, so mas maganda siguro kung i-update yung Python version ng or ng system nyo or nagamit nyo. So, Python's version is printed on the first line. So, ayan. When interpreter is launched, like this one, for the figure 1. So, this is our figure 1. The next one is our figure 2. So when the Python interpreter is called with no arguments and commands and entered via keyboard, the interpreter is said to be interactive mode. So kapag wala kayo nilagay, yan, pagkatapos nyo mag-type ng, let's say, any code na related sa Python, maglalagay siya ng ganitong tatlong sign, tatlong greater than signs. Okay, so meaning lang nito, nasa continuation pa rin kayo ng ng prompt or ng process nyo. Okay, so ibig sabihin, waiting pa rin yung CMD or yung shell natin para sa mga i-input mong code. So this one prompt indicates the interpreter is ready and waiting commands. Okay, so ready na daw siya and then naghihintay na lang. So continuation lines are needed when entering multi-line code. So ito yung continuation line natin, triple dot. Okay, so this one is needed when entering multi-lines of codes, like the figure 2. Okay, so we have here your first code, and then pangalawang lines, which is in series. Okay, para ma-distinguish to ng Python natin na hindi siya kasama or another line na pala siya. So gamit lang kayo ng triple dot. So you're separating this one from this one. So kung babasahin nyo to, this one is one line and then another line. Okay, figure 2 shows an if-then block written in Python. So this one is if-then ba to? Nasaan if-then natin? The world is flat equals to true. If-then statement to. So meron tayong simple text. The world is flat if it's true. If the word is flat, then just print, be careful not to fall off. Okay, so another one is be careful not to fall off. So we have a total of 3 lines. So yeah. All right. So another way of using the interpreter is Python C command. Okay. Or Python -C command. So maraming ways, pero sa akin yung pinaka-simple lang. Okay. So depende sa inyo ano yung prefer nyo, which executes the statements in the command. So because Python statements often contains spaces or other characters that are particular to the shell, it is suggested to enclose the entire command between single quotes. So, yung iba kasi, lalo na sa mga string, gumagamit tayo ng double quotation or single quotation. So, mamaya papakita ko paano nyo i-separate or para hindi ma-detect ng Python na closing quotation na pala to. Okay? So, variables, parang may Wait lang. Statements. May na-move ba ako? String statements. Strings, variables, and then statements in the command, Python spaces or other characters. Parang nawawala yung one. These type of sets. I think dito pa siya mamaya. Pero hindi ko ako na-reshuffle. Anyway, so continue natin dito. Kung saan tayo nagtapos kanina. So the interpreter receives and executes statements interactively. So yung ginagawa niya, is yun, naghihintay lang siya ng lines of codes na i-input ng user and then i-execute niya na yun kung kailangan. So the interpreter acts as a simple calculator. Kapag may input ka, calculate, bibigay niya na kagad yung result. So you can type an expression on it and it will write the value. So expression syntax is straightforward. So of course, meron tayong operators. Same with calculator, plus, minus, multiplication, and then division. Work just as they do in most other languages. So for example, in Pascal or C, so it's use parentheses for groupings as shown above. So same, plus, minus, multiplication, and then division. So since right here, itong 3 greater than signs, and then 3 greater than signs. So waiting lang siya. So nag-type ka na ng 25 plus 25, and then papakita niya na as a result is 50. And then 70 plus 7 times 6 is 112. And then another one is 50 minus 5.0 times 6 divided by 4 is 5.0. So eto gumagana rin siya as calculator, okay? So PEMDAS yung rule natin dito. Right, so moving on. Variables are labeled memory areas. So na-discuss na natin to kanina using a variable. So that are used to store runtime program data. Oops. So it assign values to variables in Python. So to assign values to variables in Python, use the equal sign. Okay? So medyo similar pa rin naman siya sa ibang programming languages. So gamit lang ka ng equal sign para ma-set yung value ng this variable, let's say. So birth year mo is 1941, current year is 2016, and then current, ito na yung parang competition. So current year minus birth year is, of course, yun. So the math. 2016 minus 1941 is 75. So no result is displayed before the next interactive prompt. So as shown on the figure below. So kung naglagay ka ng ito, say variable birth year, so walang computation nangyayari unless nag-trigger ka ng computation like this one. Those two variables now is being calculated, like current year minus birth year. Okay? So attempts to use a not defined variable or no assigned value will result in an error. So kapag, let's say, nag-define ka ng variable pero wala namang value, kapag kinol mo na siya, like this one, current year, pero wala naman pala siyang value, then magkakaroon ka ng error, of course, as shown on the figure below. Okay? So, ito, magkakaroon siya ng error kasi nag-declare ka lang ng may new variable pero wala namang value. Right? So, moving on. Sa string naman tayo. So, dito na yung medyo complicated or medyo magulo. So, variables, okay lang. Strings defined as a sequence of characters. So, alam niyo na yan. When say strings, sequence of characters. Can also be handled by interactive mode. Use the backslash or this one, backslash character to escape characters. So as an example, a string uses double quotes but also needs to use a double quote within the string. Okay? So kailangan natin ng double quote for every string. Pero say kailangan mo ulit ng double quote for that word, okay, or for that certain phrase, kailangan mo ng separator. Okay? After ng outer, kailangan mo na maglagay ng backslash. Ganito pala, backslash. Okay? So, for example, if the string is entered as follows, I really need this. So, as you can see, meron tayong 4 na quotation. So, ang pagbasa kasi ng Python natin is from left to right. So, pag nakita niya to, Okay? Ito yung start, and then ito na yung end. So, mababasa niya lang yan as I really. And yung katuloy nun is maybe error na or hindi niya na mabasa. So, Python will get confused and think that the first double quote within the string actually ends the string. So, ito pa lang, I really. Okay? So, if you place a backslash before the double quotes inside string as follows, I really, so backslash lang, so that's a separator para ma-skip. Okay? So, ang ginagawa lang ng backslash natin is ini-skip natin yung double quotation na yun. Pero nandun siya. Okay? Nandun siya. Ini-skip lang ng ng function na to. So, ang basa niya lang dito is I really need this and then double quotation ulit. Kasi ini-skip mo ulit yung pangalawa. So, the backslash causes Python to escape or ignore. Okay, yun yung pinaka-proper term. Ignore the character that follows. So, hindi lang naman double quotation, no? So, kahit ano naman yan, kapag nilagyan mo ng backslash, i-ignore niya yung next na character. Okay, so I repeat, pag naglagay kayo ng backslash, ang ginagawa niyan is ini-ignore niya yung nasa next. Okay, so single quotes or double quotes can be used to wrap strings. So, mas maganda pa kapag separate mo na lang na dalawa. So, single, and then double yung nasa loob. So, in that way, yung pinaka-first is yung start and then yung pinaka-last na single string is yung end. So, in that way, yan yung mababasa niyong buo instead of using a backslash. So, ito yung isa sa mga examples. So, using a single quotation, using a backslash to skip the single quote, etc. etc. Okay, so iwanan ko na yan sa inyo. So, continuation. So, the print statement prints the result of the expression it was given. So, very familiar naman siguro kayo dito about print. So, it differs from just writing the expression you want to write. So, as we did earlier in the calculator examples, in the way it handles multiple expressions and strings, strings are printed without quotes. And space is inserted between items. So, you can format things nicely as shown on the figure below. Okay, so we have here variable I wherein it has a computation of 256 times 256. So just print and then some strings. The value of I is, and then the variable itself, which is I. So it will print the value of I is 65536. And then we also have functions, of course. So hindi lang print. Functions are an important part of many programming languages. Actually, sobrang importante. Without functions, like 50% dead yung programming. So functions allow for a block of code to be given a name and reuse as needed. So ito yung pinakamagandang function ng pinakamagandang function ng function. So pwede mo siyang i-call, okay? So call mo lang ito and then yun. So hindi mo na siya i-rewrite. So figure below defines a function to add two numbers and print the result. Okay, so meron tayong function to add two numbers. And then nag-define ka ng ito na yung pangalan ng function mo, add nums, and then meron kayong, or below that, we have variable a is equal to 5, then b is equal to 11, and then we have here a return. So what we'll do, or what it will do is it will get the value of a and then it will get the value of b. So ano man yung makompute yung value, so 5 plus 11, then pwede mong i-display or i-print. So 5 plus 11 is 16. Okay. So here are some useful functions and data types in Python. So Python supports many useful functions and data types. So some of the more important ones are as follows. Meron tayong range, kung kailan yung start, stop, and then kung ilan yung step. Okay? Meron din tayong tuples, meron tayong list, meron tayong sets, meron tayong dictionary. I think hanggang dyan na lang. Yeah, hanggang doon na lang. So marami tayong iba't ibang klase ng functions and data. So for range, very obvious naman, this one is ranging from 3 hanggang kung saan man start niya. So ang start nito by default is 0. So all you need to do is count 3. So this one is incrementing by default by 1. So mapansin niyo starting from 0 and then 1, 2. Since the count of range is 3 only. So 0, 1, and then 2. And then if we have two parameters, so yung syntax natin is like this. For I in range is 3, and then 6. So print I. So starting natin is 3. And then yung range din natin is 3. So just count 3. So starting from 3, 3, 4, and then 5. And then if we have 3 parameters, we have here 4, 10, and then 2. So ito yung start, and then ito yung pinaka-last sa value, and then yung step. So pag hindi mo i-indicate yung step, by default, plus 1 yun. Pag in-indicate mo na, okay, so depende na kung ano yung value na ilalagay mo. So 2, 3, 4, so yun yung step value niya. So in this case, nag-start siya sa 4, plus 2, every term. So 4, 6, and then 8. Okay. And then for tuples, this one is just a sequence of unchangeable. Okay, ito yung pinagkaiba nung tuples dito sa list natin. So if it's tuples, it's unchangeable Python objects. So top 1, top 2, print, print. So like permanent na siya or constant. So tuples are sequences separated by parentheses. So here are the examples of tuples. But for list, so it's changeable objects. Okay, so pwede mo siyang i-update. Unlike tuples, hindi mo siya pwedeng i-update. So kung gusto mo na-update or nababago yung value ng let's say ng mga function mo, so pwede mong gamitin tong list. So from here, ito yung initial value, and then ito yung updated value natin. Right, so ilang slide pa? 7. So hindi tayo abot. So tapusin ko lang hanggang dito sa dictionary. So sets, familiar naman na siguro kayo sa sets. So pag sinabi nating sets, it's an unordered collection of unique elements. So take note, unique elements or distinct elements. So let's say we have set X, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, and then 2, 3. So kapag sinabi mong set and then variable X, kukunin niya lang yung set mismo, okay? Or yung elements of that set na walang nauulit since kailangan natin is unique elements. So as a result, we have here 1, 2, and 3 since yung iba is paulit-ulit lang naman. And then, etc., etc. So napakaraming examples. Okay? And then lastly, for this one is dictionary. So this one is a list of elements that are separated by commas. Okay? So ito, let's see, nag-print ka dito and then comma mo lang and then another year na naman to. So each element is a combination of value and a unique key. So each key is separated from its value by a colon. Okay? So yan yung separator ng key natin. So the entire dictionary is written within braces. Dictionary elements can be accessed, updated, and deleted. So there are also many built-in dictionary functions such as function that compares elements. So pwede mo rin compare aside from accessing, updating, and then deleting. Okay, count of the total numbers of elements within a dictionary. So figure on the right shows the examples of dictionaries. So let's say we have dictionaries here, age, 34, city, and so on and so forth, and then their updated value, and then kung gusto mo mag-add or mag-delete or mag-quan, so pwede rin naman. Okay, so wala pa dito yung pinaka syntax, pero ito lang yung parang overview when it comes to updating or accessing or deleting. Okay, so hanggang dito na lang muna ulit, and then tatapusin na lang natin siya sa part 3. So I think 10 seconds na lang to. So goodbye muna ulit. Wait na lang kayo for 5 to 7 minutes.
See you, sir.
Alright, so see you on part 3. Hindi pa pala ako nakashare. Salita na ako ng salita, di pa ako nakashare. So this is where we've stopped. Okay, so can you guys see my screen now?
Yes,
Alright. Okay, so the next one is learning about the structures in Python. So this one is also similar with other languages. So let's say you're going to use an if-then structure. So in Python, so you use this one to allow the code to make decisions based upon the result of an expression. So as shown on the figure below. Okay, so we have here the variable x is equal to int input, please enter an integer. Please enter integer, and then here's the printed. So let's say you put 42. So if x is less than 0, so it will display this one, and then print negative change to 0. Else if x is equal to 0, print 0. Else if x is equal to 1, print single. else display, let's say, kapag 2 na siya or 3, then you can display more. So in here, i-ask mo lang yung user kapag, let's say, any number, pwede naman ilagay as long as it's an integer. So the code performs a few tests and prints a message in accordance with the results of the test. So notice that the Python also implements two substructures. So meron tayong else, kung papansin niyo meron tayong else, meron tayong elif. Okay, or we read this one else if. Okay, just a shortcut of else if. So this one is else if, so elif. So kapag else yung gamit nyo, so it allows the programmer to specify instructions to be executed if the expression is false. So actually kapag sinabi nating else, kapag yan actually yung pinaka-end. Okay. So kapag hindi tumama dito sa lahat ng mga inputs, ito yung parang pinaka-last resort na gagawin ng program mo. Or ang gagawin niya talaga kapag hindi tumama dito or pag hindi true dito sa value nito dito sa else if x is equal to 0 or else if equal to 1. So other than that, will be displayed more. Okay? So elif is used to perform a second test in case the first expression is false. So in elif, marami tayong expression. Kahit ilan yan, unlimited kung ilan yung ilalagay nyo. So, pwedeng first elif, hindi siya true. So, mag-move on siya sa second elif. So, pag hindi pa rin true hanggang sa maabot niya yung pinakababa, hanggang sa pag walang tumama doon, then, yun, sa else na rin yung bagsak mo. Okay? So, there can be 0 or more ellipse, and the else part is optional. So, kahit ilan tong elif. And then, tong else, mostly, isa lang to. Okay? Kasi ito yung pinaka-ending or pinaka-last ng coding structure natin. Alright. So, meron din tayong for. And then, so, ito yung una is if then. Meron din tayong for loop. And then, meron din tayong while loop. Okay. So, for loop, it iterates the items of any sequence. So, ito yung diagram for the for loop. And then, this one is a diagram for the while loop. Okay. So, meron tayong words is equal to cat, window, and then defenestry. So, for W in words, so ito na yung loopings natin. For W in words, print W and then len function and then W. So, basically, ang len is, kinukuha lang naman yung count of characters inside of that variable wherein, ito nga, W is in words. So, parang pinasa lang. Ang laman ng W natin is yung variable words wherein yung variable words natin contains this one, cat, window, and then defenestry. So as you can see, as a result, it will print the count of characters on each of those or separated by comma. So for cat, of course, 3 letters. For window, of course, it's 6 letters. And then for defenestry, it's 12 letters. Okay? So yan yung isa sa mga gamit ng for loop. And then for while loop, it executes a block of code if the expression is true. So while this expression is true, then it will keep on executing the process below it. The program shown in figure 3, figure above, on the right, figure above on the right, para mas specific, below on the left. On the left side. So ito is for loop, and then this one is for the while loop. So as you can see right here, the name of the title is Fibonacci series. So kung hindi nyo man alam pa yung Fibonacci series, you can always ask Mr. Google what is Fibonacci. So, Fibonacci is the result of getting the summation of the last 2 recent numbers. So as you can see right here, we have the first number is, let's say, 0, and then the second one is 1. So 0 plus 1 is 1. And then 1 plus 1 will become 2. And then 2 plus 1 will become 3. And then, ano pa bang next? Naguluhan na ako. Search na lang natin. Fibonacci sequence. Someone chatted yesterday. Alright, so as you can see right here, ito yung first 10 numbers ng ating Fibonacci sequence. So let's say this is the first term, second term. So kailangan lang naman natin sa Fibonacci sequence is yung first two terms. So add nyo lang yan. So 0 plus 1 is 1, 1 plus 1 is 2, 2 plus 1 is 3, 3 plus 2 is 5, 5 plus 3 is 8, 8 plus 5 is 13, and so on and so forth. Hanggang, yan. So napakarami. Infinite naman yun eh. Okay. So that's how Fibonacci sequence is being listed. So as you can see right here, meron din tayong variable a, and then b is equal to 0. And then starting from 1. So while b, so hanggat yung value ng b natin is less than 10, then it will keep on printing this one, a, b is equal to b, and then the third one is a plus b. So ito yung first one, of course by default 1 na siya, and then yung formula natin which is b is equal to b. So yeah, mag-a-add lang silang dalawa, a plus b, and then yun na yung pangatlo natin. Actually, medyo magulo pa yung syntax. Kahit ako medyo nagugulan kung paano po siya. Pero, yun. For now, this will be our assignment or my assignment. Okay. So, ito yung syntax natin for us to be able to get this output. So, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, and then 8. Okay. So, hindi ko pa kasi siya masyadong na-explore. But for now, ito yung sample syntax when it comes to Fibonacci sequence using a while loop structure. Okay? So, ito na yung pinaka-last actually. And then, yeah, additional, which is your laboratory number 10. Ito yung pinaka-matagal. Actually, kung lalo na pag mabagal yung internet. Okay? Kasi, kailangan natin ng virtual machine. So, may gumamit na ba sa inyo ng virtual machine? Setting up a virtualized server environment. Yung Oracle, or yung VMware, mga iba. Basta maraming klase ng mga virtual machine. Pero mostly ito naman yung gamit. Since free naman to and then okay naman siya, working perfectly. So ito yung instruction, and then bago nyo basa instruction, so make sure na i-download nyo na agad yung virtual machine. Alright, so pakita ko lang sa inyo. Pag clinic nyo yung virtual machine, oops, wait lang. Naulit. Sige, download muna natin tong kan pala. Instruction on how to install the virtual machine. Alright, so for this one, we have 4 objectives. So first one is prepare a computer for virtualization environment by installing a virtual box. Okay, after mo ma-install yung virtual box, so ito na yung gagamitin natin as a server wherein i-install natin yung i2 IOT server sa VM natin. Alright, so wait, inom lang ako ng tubig. Nuubo ako. Alright, next one. After mo ma-install yung server natin, which is the i2 IOT, so i-access na natin siya ngayon dito sa virtual machine natin. Okay? And gagamit tayo ng some basic navigation when it comes to CentOS 7. So this is an operating system. Okay? So ito yung gagamitin natin para pag-aralan yung Python. Okay? So gamit ng virtual machine, mag-install ng server, and then ito yung gagamitin natin as a third party or as a third server para dun sa Python. Okay, so I'll leave the background to you and then the scenario. So ang required resources mo is of course yung hindi naman talaga modern. Okay, at least 4 GB or 8 GB. Okay, that's plenty enough already. Ang pinakamahalaga dito is yung RAM actually. So kailangan may sufficient RAM ka kahit hindi naman siya ganoon kabilis. Pero of course, kung mabilis yung processor, mas maganda. Pero in using a virtual machine, malakas kasi siyang kumain ng RAM. Actually, hindi malakas. Maglalaan ka kasi talaga ng RAM. Magbibigay ka ng RAM. Magsaset ka ng specific RAM na gagamitin ng virtual machine. So let's say kung meron kang 8 GB, so pwede mong hatiin. So 4 GB para dun sa main na computer mo. And then 4 GB naman para dun sa third application, which is yung VM or virtual machine. So, yun na nga, after mo nang ma-install yung VirtualBox, i-install mo na yung IOT server. And then, dito mo siya i-install. I think ito yung VirtualBox. Check ko lang. There you go. So, dito mo i-install yung VirtualBox. Okay, so hanapin nyo lang yung download link dito. And then, after mo ma-download to, install mo lang siya. Ayan, nandito naman yung step by step kung paano siya i-install. So, iwanan ko rin sa inyo. Click next, blah, blah, blah. Mostly next lang naman yan. And then install. And then saan siya isa-save. After nun, i-download nyo na yung server natin na gagamitin. Ito yung operating system na gagamitin natin. IOT, which is really pre-made when it comes to learning about IOTs. Okay? And then yung language na gagamitin natin is Python. So, yun na nga. Ito naman yung download link. So, 2.2 GB to. So, medyo malaki-laki. Okay? So, para rin siyang operating system na Windows like 4 GB, 3 GB, or even 2 GB. So, ito, 2.2 GB. So, click nyo lang to. And then, yun, magda-download na siya. So, as you can see right here on my upper right, it's 2.2 GB. Okay, so, tagal. Abot siguro ng 1 oras, 2 oras, 3 oras. Depende sa internet connection. Alright, and then yun. Nandito rin instruction kung paano siya i-install dito sa virtual box natin. So after nyo ma-install, yung part 3 natin is accessing or opening the IOT server VM. So here, so configure nyo lang naman siya, basic or initial configurations. So yan, dito kayo pwede magpalit ng pangalan ng yung server name nyo. Pwede nyo rin palitan yung, pwede nyo i-adjust. Okay, kasi na-install nyo na, pwede nyo i-adjust yung RAM. Basic memory na kakainin ng server nyo kapag naka-open tong virtual machine. So sa mga hindi pa nakagamit ng virtual machine, I highly suggest that you watch some videos in YouTube for now para makita mo kung paano let's say, yun. Kasi mostly, ginagamit tong virtual machine para mang-hack. Okay? Kasi, pinaka-safe tong process kasi mag-create siya ng another physical address. Okay? So kung may ma-hack man, yun na, third-party server lang naman siya. So pwede mo namang burahin yun anytime and then mag-install ka lang ulit ng another operating system. So, of course, gamit ka ng Linux, Kali Linux. Alright, so yung system, mostly, ang most pinaka-recommendable ko na RAM is 4 GB RAM. So that's, I think, already plenty enough. Huwag ka lang mag-open ng maraming tabs since third-party server lang naman siya. Kaya hindi naman siya working na talagang server. Of course, mas mabagal siya compared dito sa, ito, yung pinaka-interface or itong PC na gamit natin mismo. Okay? So, 4 GB or at least 2 GB kung sakaling mababa yung RAM nyo. Okay? 2 to 4 GB. And then, kapag na-install nyo na, so, initially, ano ba yan? So, initially, ganyan siya. Kapag na-install nyo, nandito lahat yung listahan ng mga server or ng mga operating system na pinag-i-install nyo. So, initially, naka-off yan. So, click nyo lang to para mag-on. So, pag nag-on na siya, ito na magpapakita. So, maglo-loading lang siya. And then, of course, meron kang IOT user kung gusto mo mag-set. So, yan. And then, some basic configuration. So, meron din time, meron parang screensaver niya to. And then, ito yung pinaka desktop interface. So, meron tayo nung folder or yung home. And then, yung trash or yung bin. Okay? And then, of course, pwede ka rin mag-connect sa internet. Okay? So, this is a basic navigation when it comes to CentOS 7. So, yun. Pwede ka rin kumanek sa internet as long as naka-set up siya. As long as naka-set up siya dito. So, kailangan mo siyang i-set up sa network. Kailangan the same siya dun sa connection ng desktop mo or ng laptop mo. And then, what else? So, setting up a virtual server. So, ito yung, let's say, parang CMP. Okay, CMP mismo ng CentOS. So, yan. Pwede ka mag-input ng mga basic commands to display the current directory. So, pwd, and then ls for the list of contents of current directory, and so on and so forth. So, after nyo mapagana yan, let's say, working na sila properly. So, kahit hanggang dyan na lang muna. Okay? And then, turn the power off. Okay, so, hanggang dun lang. So, pagganahin nyo lang yung kasi ito yung gagamitin natin. Okay? itong CMD mismo ng CentOS. Okay, so Cent Operating System 7. Alright? So, hindi ko na muna dadagdagan. Tapusin nyo muna to hanggang sa Lunes. So, I hope ma-install nyo na to by Monday para kapag nag-start na kayo, okay, kasi hindi nga pala tayo mag-meet by this coming Monday. So, yung Laboratory 11 nyo kasi is ito yung gagamitin nyo. Okay. Ito yung gagamitin yung virtual machine. Papasok kayo dun sa server na in-install nyo, yung CentOS 7. And then yun dun kayo mismo magpa-program, magpa-practice ng Python. Right? So, hanggang dito na lang muna. And then, do you guys have a question or clarification so far?
Holiday ba sa Monday, sir?
Ang alam ko, holiday. Yeah, 1. And kung babalikan natin sa calendar, nag-base na ako sa calendar, wala pa namang ina-announce. Itong 20 to 2021. So, holiday November 2. November 1 and November 2 is holiday.
Okay, sige, sir.
Okay, ang resume, non-class day pa rin pala sa Tuesday. So, wala kayong klase na Monday saka Tuesday. According dito. And then, yung resume ng class is 4. May bad. Ang exam nyo pala, midterm exam is 11, 12, 13, not 5, 6, 7. Saan ba nakita yun? So, matagal-tagal pa. May 3 pa yata tayong meeting. Or 2. Anyway, so hanggang doon na lang muna. Okay. And then yung continuation nito is sa Monday na siguro para matapos siguro lahat-lahat. Yung Lab 1 to Lab 10. And then yan, continue natin yung Laboratory number 11 kapag na-install nyo na to virtual machine. Kasi hindi nyo magagawa yon hanggat wala kayo nung virtual machine. Alright? So,
Sige,
upload
sir.
lang din to sa page natin. Pero hindi pa tapos as you can see. Slide 3 to 1 continues pa yan. Hanggang sa matapos yung chapter 2. Alright. So, hanggang doon na lang muna. Any question or clarification so far? Para ma-discuss na natin. It's already 1:35. None?
Wala, sir. Clear.
Kung walang question or clarification, so pwede na kayo mag-leave and then
None,
have
sir.
lunch to all of you. Hindi ba man din kayo nag-lunch? So parehas ko, di ba?
Sige, sir.
Sige, bye-bye.
Sige, sir.
Bye,
Salamat.
sir.
Bye, sir.
Bye, sir.
Goodbye. Alright, so can you guys see my screen now?
Yes, sir.
Alright, so before we start or before we go back to the original number where we left last meeting, so I just would like to ask you guys regarding with the laboratory number 9. So let me just download it again. All right, so were all of you able to do or finish the laboratory number 9? May nakagawa na ba sa inyo? The blinking and LED using black
Yes,
the
sir.
objectives. Nagawa mo, Mr. Barasi?
Yes, sir.
Alright, so gumana. So basically, gumana sa'yo itong ito. Nagpakita sa'yo kaagad to, itong pre-built Blackly programs.
Yes, sir. Dinoble click ko lang yung main visual.
Dinouble click mo lang tong program, di ba? Or itong main.visual.
Opo, sir. Yung main.visual, sir. Tapos nagpakita na yung mga block.
Anong gamit mong version ng Packet Tracer? Yung nasa LinkedIn ba? O yung latest?
Yung latest, sir.
Okay. So, how about the others? Napagana nyo ba or napalabas nyo ba to? Itong private Blockly program? Or sino
Hindi,
dito?
sir.
Merong hindi lumalabas? Kasi sa akin, hindi rin lumalabas eh. As in blanco yung main.visual ko. Tapos, trinay ko din. In my case, I tried doing it manually. Yung ito, kasi kinuha ko siya dito sa yung mga pin access, networking, blah, blah, blah. Kompleto naman siya eh. Pwede mo naman siyang gawin. Yun. So, nung trinay ko as in ganito, tapos nung kiniklik ko yung run, wala nagpapakita. Hindi naman nagbi-blink yung LED. So, even this one, pinalitan ko yung 1023, yung value, ganun pa rin. Walang ginagawa sa program. Meron bang ganun din sa inyo? Walang nagpakita ang black or pre-built blocks?
Wala, sir.
Dalawa lang kami may problema ni Mr. Pangalan nun? Si Mr. Dave. Dito ba siya ngayon? Wala yata siya ngayon dito. Si Dancel, naalala ko. Si Dancel. Sabi niya, wala daw sa kanya. And then, trinay ko sa akin, wala din sa akin. Si Mr. Jairus din. Wala rin si Mr. Jairus.
Wala rin.
Tatlo. Dami. So, gusto ko sana malaman kung ano yung nangyari. Mr. Dumagat, wala rin. Ano nga ako? Pabilang ako kung sino yung mga meron. Wala rin sa inyo. Wala rin kay Mr. Carl. So, almost lahat wala. Ang meron lang, kahit gawin manually. Alright, so yun na nga. Alright, so since hindi natin alam yung real output, okay, ng dalawa, kung nagbiblink po yung LED or hindi. So, ano kaya? Can we just skip? Is it okay for you guys if we skip laboratory number 9? Pero may nakagawa kasi eh. So what are your thoughts, guys? Gusto nyo bang i-skip na lang natin to? Itong laboratory number 9 using black key. So what are your thoughts regarding with my opinion? Hello guys, nandiyan pa ba kayo? Hello. You guys there? Naririnig nyo pa ba ako?
Here, sir.
So,
Yes, sir.
ano sa tingin nyo? Alright, so ganito na lang siguro. Yung mga nakapagpagana, okay, so keep nyo na lang muna yung mga sagot nyo kung sakali. And then sa mga hindi pa nakapagpagana, okay, so try kong ulitin ulit. And then we'll decide before the midterm exam kung i-required ko pa ba siya or hindi. So sa mga hindi gumagana yung yung mga blocks, yung hindi nagpapakita yung pre-built blocks, skip nyo muna to. Proceed kayo sa lab number 10 saka sa laboratory number 11. Alright? So, ganun na lang muna. Since, yun na nga, karamihan sa atin is hindi nagpapakita yung private class. And I don't also know why maybe kailangan pa natin, sure. Pero latest naman na kasi yun eh. Hindi kaya may na-miss tayong module na kailangang i-download or package or extension. So, hindi ko sure. So, ganun na lang muna, no? Hello? Nakikinig pa?
Okay, sir.
Alright.
Sir, sige sir.
Sige, ganun na lang muna. So, mga nakapagpagana, then kung pwede na yun, then pwede nyo na submit nyo na. Pero yung deciding factor natin is before midterm exam pa. Kung magawa ko ng paraan to para ma-share ko sa iba na hindi rin nila napapagana kasi wala talaga nagpapakita. Pre-built blocks. Anyway, so resume na tayo dun sa kung saan tayo tumigil last meeting. So I think we've stopped here in laboratory number 10. So for sure, tapos na kayo dito, right? Tapos nyo na ma-install. Is there still someone who haven't installed the virtual machine yet? Lahat kayo na-install nyo na?
Hindi pa, sir.
So, hindi pa. Okay, so yung isasubmit nyo na lang dito. So, download ko lang ulit. Hindi pa, okay. Okay, sige, hindi pa. Alright. So, yung pinaka-output nyo na lang. Okay. Hanap ako na may screenshot. Alright. So, kuha na lang kayo ng screenshot dito. Okay. Pero, dadagdagan ko, there's an additional. So, inform the others who are not here. So, for your laboratory number 10, open nyo lang ulit since na-install nyo naman na itong CentOS na operating system. So, add nyo lang. Mag-add lang kayo ng folder. Okay. So, create a new folder. And then name it CentOS. Oops. Wala. Yan. So, name it CentOS. So, dapat merong another folder dito or kahit saan dyan. Basta makita ko tatlong components. Dalawang folder, saka isang, I don't know if this is recycle bin. Limutan ko. Pero dapat tatlong component na makikita ko dito. Okay. And then, screenshot nyo lang to. Ay yung buo kasama yung virtual machine. And then, yun na yan. So, gusto ko lang makita yung proof na na-install nyo na mismo yung CentOS 7. Okay. So, create lang kayo ng new folder, CentOS. So, are we clear on this one? Screenshot lang and then yun ang isasend nyo dun sa laboratory number 10. Alright. So, again, create a new folder, name it CentOS, and then yun yung isasend nyo sa laboratory number 10. So, I just need the proof that you were able to install this one properly. And then, of course, you have to check kung connected ba siya sa internet. And then, yung terminal, kung gumagana ba. And then, kung anong version ng Python nyo. But of course, Python 3 naman na gagamitin. So, Python 3.6.5 na yung papakita dyan. Or, mas mataas pa dyan. Okay. And then, turn up. Alright, so that's it for laboratory number 10. And then for laboratory number 11, alright, so here in laboratory number 11, so gagamitin nyo na yung virtual machine nyo and then start nyo lang yung IOT na operating system. So pasok lang kayo dyan and then makita nyo na yan. And then, punta lang kayo sa terminal nyo mismo. Okay? So, eto na yon mula sa step 2, letter A hanggang sa pinakalas, kung ano man yung mga pinagawa. Okay? So, just take a screenshot of those. So, you should have the same result. Okay? Mga ganito. So, just take a screenshot of those. So, step A, screenshot. Step B, screenshot. Step C, screenshot. Step D hanggang sa pinakadulo. Hanggang dito sa step J. Okay? So, hanggang K pa pala. Quit to exit interactive interpreter. And then, mag-part 3 na kayo kaagad. So part 3, screenshot din nito, itong letter A. So PowerShell to ng parang Linux base. And then create kayo ng new file. So basically every step na merong output, ganun na lang. Every step na merong output, take a screenshot of that one. So paste nyo lang to sa isang, let's say, Microsoft Word or PowerPoint. Pwede rin naman, as long as makita ko yung mga screenshots ng mga ganito nyo. Okay. So, yeah, hanggang sa pinakahuli. Ito, hanggang letter E ng part 2. So, dapat ganyan yung magpapakita. Alright? So, are we clear with this one? So, proof lang to na, yun, ginawa nyo lahat ng steps. Okay? Hindi lang basta ginawa nyo yung iba and then yung iba in-skip nyo. So, I need the full steps from part 2 to part 3. So, screenshot of those. Okay, so yun ipapasa nyo dito sa laboratory number 11. So, are we clear regarding with this one? Hello, guys. Diyan pa ba kayo o kumakain na kayo? Knock, knock.
Sir, dito pa sir.
Diyan pa. Mabuti naman. Okay, so, kaya mamaya nag-join lang kayo tapos umaalis na kayo. Mag-ML na yata kayo eh. Okay, sige. Ganun na. Screenshot lahat nung part 2 hanggang part 3 nung laboratory number 11. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Yes, possible talagang sa Microsoft Word na lang dapat talaga ilagay para mas magaan, mas madali. Okay, so, ganun na lang. Sa Microsoft Word nyo i-paste. So, eto na yung pinaka-last na laboratory nyo actually sa midterms. Hindi ko nadadagdagan kasi nga exam nyo na
Yes.
exam nyo na next week. Okay. So, hanggang laboratory number 11 lang tayo. So, may 4 pang modules to be exact. So, baka marami na akong tatanggalin. Okay? Hindi na natin gagawin lahat ng mga nasa NetAcad. So, titignan ko na lang yung mga makakatulong para dun sa final project nyo this coming finals. Okay. So, we'll see kung ano yung magiging final project nyo, kung paano siya. Okay. Alright. So, tapusin lang natin to, itong chapter 2. So, defining prototyping. So, as you all know, prototyping is the process that you do before making it to the final project. Bago nyo i-finalize lahat-lahat. Okay? Parang nasa pre-built state pa lang kayo. Okay? Pwede pa kayo may baguhin sa design, sa electrical, sa physical, and sa programming, and so on and so forth. So, marami pa kayong pwedeng baguhin. Okay? So, of course, laging ganon. Okay? Lagi tayo nasa prototype. Even the cellphone that we're using is, the prototype of the newer version right now. So, sila nagbe-base kung ano pa yung mga pwede nilang dagdagan para sa bago na technology. Okay? So, IOT is one of the things that, very fresh when it comes to having a lot of prototypes. So, nasa state pa lang tayo ng, let's say, 10%, okay? Or 20% na wala pa talagang final project when it comes to this thing, when it comes to light, when it comes to this sensor, and so on and so forth. So, marami pang ini-improve sa lahat-lahat. Okay? So, if you want to know or to learn more about prototyping, okay, so you can click this link. Okay. So, eto, matutulungan ka niya para malaman mo yung mga pinag-uusapan about Internet of Things. Okay? So, how to prototype. So, maraming ways kung paano naman mag-prototype. So, the first thing that you need to know is yung ways. Okay? Or yung mga method. So, one good example of prototyping is tong rapid prototyping. Okay? So, ito yung pinakagamit na gamit when it comes to IoT. So, kung gusto nyo malaman about rapid prototyping method, so you can click this one. Okay? Para malaman mo yung process. So, merong video doon na mag-explain kung paano ba i-implement ng rapid prototyping na to. And then, another thing is, let's say, yes, marami kang gustong i-prototype, pero problema mo yung budget. And then, let's say, meron kang super good or super genius na idea. Okay? Sobrang ganda. Nasa tingin mo is makakatulong talaga sa mundo ng IoT. Okay? So, you can always find a financial help like yung sinasabi natin crowdfunding. Okay? So marami nito hindi lang sa IoT, pwedeng kahit sa ibang field. Basta meron kang idea, okay? So, isa sa mga company na yun is yung Kickstarter, Indiegogo, and so on and so forth. Actually, marami pa din. And crowdfunder are just 3 of the many online crowdfunding programs. So, click nyo lang to para mapunta kayo sa isa sa mga crowdfunding na website. So kapag nagustuhan nila yung, let's say, yun, yung prototype mo, so pwede sila mag-donate para matulungan ka na matapos yung project na yun. Okay. So lahat ng mga inventors nandun, parang mostly ay nandun para magtulong-tulong. Okay. So yeah, with that having said, so what IoT invention will you create? So make sure na let's say create ka, something that is really helpful and interesting and then functional. So dapat sobrang wow talaga ng project mo. Okay? So yun lang naman when it comes to prototyping. And then, of course, bago kayo mag-prototype, okay, kailangan nyo ng physical materials. So we have a lot of websites for you to give or for you to get an idea. Okay? So the first thing that you need to have is, of course, the internet. So dati-rati kasi sobrang hirap ng, pagkuha ng idea. As in talagang gusto mo nang makakuha ng idea, kailangan mo bumili ng magazine, kailangan mo bumili ng libro, kailangan mo pumunta sa library, and so on and so forth. So right now, sobrang laki ng pinagbago nung nagkaroon tayo ng internet. Okay? So there are several websites you can visit to connect with other makers. So Makers Media is a global platform for connecting makers with each other to exchange projects and ideas. Okay, so this is one good website wherein you can find a lot of enthusiasts, okay, na let's say, paano kaya pag ganito? Okay, parang dito yung exchange of ideas eh. Okay, dito sila nagbe-brainstorm kumbaga. Okay. So dito yung iba naman hindi talaga creator but they are here to buy the product itself. So napakaganda to kasi pag nagustuhan nila yung idea mo, okay, pwede nilang bilhin. So if you want to go here in Maker Media, so you can always go here in http://magazine.com. Okay, so isa ito sa mga pinakamalaking exchanging of ideas or projects. Okay, so magazine. So control and then left click na lang to. So mapaproceed na ka dun sa website. So other websites that can help you give you an idea on what are the things that you're going to do when it comes to prototyping is Lego Mindstorms. So kapag about robots ka naman, so probably one of the best website or one of the best company that you can go to is Lego Mindstorms. Since ito yung parang, blocks na talaga. As in, pwede mong gawin to, pwede mong gawin dyan. Kasi yun nga, Legos, creating from scratch and then having it work from nothing to this thing. Okay? So kung gusto mo malaman about Lego robots, so yeah, click nyo lang to. Just go to this website. And then kung more into kuan ka naman, like model construction system, so Meccano is one of the, or yun, pwedeng Meccano actually, or pwedeng Electroset. So dalawa yan. So ito naman yung makakatulong sa'yo pagdating sa mga metal strips, plates, angle girders, wheels, axles, and then gears. So pwedeng siguro sa mga kwanto, sa mga cars. Okay, sa mga smart cars kasi more on wheels and axles sila. Okay, so robotics, medyo combine tong dalawa pero more on kung ano to eh, sa ilalim kung paano siya gumalaw, okay? Or kung paano niya igalaw yung mga joints. So pwede rin. Okay? So baka makakuha rin kayo ng idea. So just visit this one, www.erector.us. And then another one is yung 3D printing, which is very, so ito siguro yung pinaka-expensive no para sa akin. Kasi the machine itself, okay, the machine itself is worth thousands or even millions. Okay, yung depende sa laki. Okay, so 3D printing is a process of making a solid object based on a 3D model computer file. So basically lahat ng model pwede mong gawin dito. Okay, so talo na ito yung Lego kasi nga mas, of course, mas flexible to. So if this is blocks, this one can create, smoother shapes or kung ano man yung shape na gusto mo. Okay, as long as you have the money to buy such 3D printer. Okay? So, yeah. So, you can visit this website para magkaroon ka ng idea about 3D printing. Okay? Makerbot.com. And then, electronic toolkits. Okay. So, after nyo magkaroon ng, let's say, mga gamit or kung ano yung mga gusto nyo talagang gawin, so, one thing na kailangan nyo is yung electronic toolkits to program those sensors or to program those prototypes. So, for beginner, okay, for learner, okay, Arduino is one of the best platform to start with. Okay, so dito naman actually almost complete na tong Arduino. Parang magagawa niyo na almost lahat. Okay. With the use of Arduino. So, yan, kumpleto naman siya. Maraming switches, napakarami ring sensors that you can do with Arduino. So, just click this website para mapunta kayo sa Arduino. Okay? And then, another thing, kung gusto mo mag-level up, let's say, yun, parang sa tingin mo, hindi mo na magawa tong bagay na to sa Arduino, so you can always, level up with Raspberry Pi. So, Raspberry Pi is a low-cost, credit card size computer that plugs into a computer monitor or TV. Okay, so, sobrang liit lang niya, wherein same with our computer, pero mas maliit lang siya. Of course, lower RAM, lower processing, lower in everything, of course, since mas maliit nga siya. Okay? So, it is capable of doing everything a computer can do. Okay? From browsing internet that can even play high-definition video to making spreadsheets or word processing and playing games. Okay? Pero of course, hindi siya ganun kalakas. Pero of course, mini computer siya. Okay? So, yeah. Pwede ka mag-create dito ng sarili mong program using a Raspberry Pi. And then BeagleBone, kung gusto mong mag-level up pa, okay? Level up pa sa Raspberry Pi. So BeagleBone is very similar to Raspberry Pi in size, power requirements, and application. So the BeagleBone has more processing power than Raspberry Pi. Therefore, it is a better choice for applications with higher processing requirements. So if you want a faster mini computer, so you can always go with BeagleBone. So to check further details about BeagleBone, so you can visit this website. Right? And then programming resources. So of course, after nyo magkaroon ng physical materials, ng toolkit, okay? So of course, kailangan nyo ng working programs para dun sa toolkit niyan. So of course, for Arduino, meron tayong Blackly. I think merong Blackly din sa Arduino. And then merong packet tracer para sa Blackly and then Python. So yun. And ano pa ba? So basically, yun lang naman yung mostly na ginagamit itong Blackly saka Python sa IOT. Okay. And then, meron tayong MIT, Open Courseware or OCW. So it is a web-based publication wherein mapapamilyar mo parang introduction, okay? Para malaman mo or matutunan mo yung mga introduction about programming languages for free. Okay, so isa to sa mga pinakamagandang website kung gusto mong maging familiar to a certain or mabigyan ng introduction. Okay, hindi naman expertise pero at least getting familiar with that certain programming language. Okay, so you can always go here. So just click this website. And then another company or another website is Khan Academy. So for sure, naririnig nyo to, Khan Academy. So malawak na yung range nila, hindi na lang sa programming. So marami na rin silang sakop. Okay, so it is a free website. It is a world-class education for anyone and then anywhere. So the lectures related to computer programming can be found in this website. So khanacademy.org. So yeah, so sobrang helpful din ng website na to when it comes to looking for programming resources. Another website is a Code Academy. Okay, so dito naman is like more on exchanging of comments, okay, or ideas. So dito, interactivity to help people learn how to write computer programs. Okay, so more on parang nag-tweet lang sila sa isa't isa. So parang live feedback to para dun sa mga taong nagtatanong din via live. Hindi lang sa isang article na, okay, ito na yung pre-made, ito na yung ganyan. But what about kapag meron kang ganitong katanungan na hindi kasama dun sa tutorial like Khan Academy? So Code Academy is one of the good website. Okay, so you can always go here to visit this code academy. And then community, inventor, and entrepreneurship workshop. So perhaps you have something really great. So what now? There are a number of places where you can get help exposing your idea or prototype to others. So yeah, pagkatapos mo magawa yung prototypes, let's say working na nga siya, and then hindi mo pa nakukuha yung, say, kung humingi ka ng tulong dito sa funding, saan na yun? Yung funds na yun. Yeah, dito sa ito, sa tong website ito, okay, wherein you can ask financial help. So you can always look for your surroundings. Okay, kailangan ba to ng kapitbahay mo? Okay, kasi yung iba dyan, mali mo, mayayaman, pero hindi lang na-introduce sa nila kaya hindi nila alam. Pero let's say, nalaman nila yung ideas or yung prototypes or yung project na ginawa mo. So, you might want to ask them or introduce your project to them. So, malay mo, supportahan ka nila or bilhin nila mismo yung project mo. Okay. So, kung wala dyan sa kapitbahay nyo, so you can always ask the local government. Pero with minimum, sobrang baba lang ng suporte. So, pero meron pa rin naman, okay? Pero hindi ganun kataas yung support ng local government natin. So, just in case, gusto mong humingi ng tulong. So, yeah, local government is one of the choice that you can go to. So, another one is school. So, very common. Pero, of course, depende na lang kapag sobrang ganda talaga or panglaban talaga yung project mo. Okay. And Chamber of Commerce. So for information about workshops, classes, and expert advice. So yeah, so you can go with those three. So the whole government, schools, and other chamber of commerce. Okay. And the internet has many resources to help your idea get exposure. So marami namang yan, pwedeng Facebook, pwede mong i-YouTube na ganito yung project mo. So malay mo may makapanood or may makakita. So yeah, pwede nilang bilhin or pwede nilang or pwede ka nilang tulungan. Okay? So one good example to get exposure of your project is Quirky. Okay? So Quirky allows users to share their ideas. So when idea is submitted, other Quirky users can vote and choose whether or not they want to support your idea. Okay, so parang hihingi ka muna dito kasi ng opinion coming from other people if this project or if this kind of idea or kind of project is good or not. So if it's a good idea, it may become a real product. Okay, from prototype to a real product. So you can always visit the website here. All right, so ito na yung mga optional laboratories. So hindi ko na ito papagawa kasi I think wala tayong Raspberry Pi. Wala rin akong Raspberry Pi so hindi ko rin nagawa to. So kung may Raspberry Pi ka, okay naman, mas maganda kung marami kang free time. So yeah, ito yung mga sample projects na pwede mong gawin with the use of Raspberry Pi. So this is also a good opportunity for you to be able to learn how to program or how to code using Raspberry Pi. Okay, so nandyan naman lahat. So using PL app notebook, so you can check those things if you have Raspberry. Okay, and then kung meron ka namang Arduino, so you can, yeah, pwede mo rin gawin to. Okay, pero optional lang siya. So I think meron na sa inyo may Arduino, so hindi na to required dito sa course ko, okay, dito sa IOT, pero kung gusto mong gawin, okay lang din naman. So, yeah. Blinking LED lang naman to. So, marami to sa YouTube actually. And then, summary. Okay. So, this chapter began by discussing how to apply basic programming to support IoT devices. So, flowcharts are diagrams that are used to present processes. So, meron tayong two common types of computer software. So, we have the system software and then application software. So application software is a program that created to accomplish a certain task, while system software works between your computer hardware and then your application program. Okay. And then programming variables can be classified into two. So local variables, so alam niyo na to, and then global variables. So local variables is within the scope of the program, and then global variables can be found within the program itself. Okay. So hindi lang siya nasa function, unlike the local. So ito is like nasa lahat. Pwede mo siyang ma-call anywhere. Okay. And then, of course, meron tayong if then, logic structure, for loop structure, and then while loop structure. Alright? And then Blackly implements visual programming by assigning different programming structures. So, discuss naman na natin tong Blackly na to. So, ito lang isa sa mga ginagamit para sa Python. From Blackly to Python kasi convertible siya, vice versa. And then Python, ito na yung gagamitin natin in the future. Python is a very popular language that is designed to be easy to read and write. So, sobrang dali lang talaga matutunan ng Python. Like, parang pambata, sobrang dali niyang intindihan. Parang nagsusulat ka lang and then yun, nandun na. And then prototyping. So, yeah, nasabi na natin ito kanina. Prototyping is the process of creating a rudimentary working model of a product or a system bago siya maging final project. And then here are some of the websites that na-mention dun sa mga past slides kanina. Alright, so yeah. Kung hindi gumagana yun, pwede kayong pumunta dito. So that's it for the chapter 2. So after ng midterm exam nyo, chapter 3 tayo. Alright? So hanggang doon na lang muna. So again, dagdagan lang ng isang laboratory from last meeting. So which is laboratory number 11. Laboratory number 11. Yeah, 11. Alright, so hanggang doon na lang muna for today. And then coverage of your exam will be, of course, the chapter 1 and chapter 2. So any questions so far?
Sir, may laboratory na exam or puro multiple choices?
I think wala na lang. Kasi puro laboratory ng ginawa nyo. So more on tayo. Maybe definition of terms, mga ganon. Or multiple choice. Okay, mga ganon. True or
Okay po,
false.
sir.
Alright. So hanggang doon na lang.